to Saving Throw Show. I am your moderator today, currently filling in for Dom. My name is B Zelda. I'm a member of the Broadswords, all women non-binary D&D podcast. I also stream a handful, typically on other people's channels, like right now. I'm a professional GM with Magpie Games. If you ever want to sit at my table, I tend to run Root or Bluebeard's Bride, two very different games, but I love teaching new folks how to play both creepy and fun kind of genres. I think that's the bulk of what I do. Adam, what about you?
Hi B, I'm Adam, and I am on Dragons and Things. No, I'm the everything of Dragons and Things. I am the executive producer, tech, editor, all the things. Dragons and Things is a network. We actually go by the DAT network for the Dragons and Things network. We produce all sorts of tabletop streams, a lot of Pathfinder and Starfinder, but we also have done some Dungeons and Dragons, other various tabletop games. We've done stuff for Limitless Adventures, who put out different APs and things like that. So we tend to do a lot of tabletop, and I tend to be at the center of making it all come to life. And I'm very, very happy to do that. We have a huge DAT family, which if I tried to remember everybody on the DAT family, I would forget someone. So I just want to thank all of my crew and cast, who is at this point very large cast. So we have a lot to offer, and if you've never checked it out, come on over, or don't. It's okay. The internet's big. There's a lot of things to see, so we won't be offended.
Let's
Malika. No, Dom, you take
it. Oh,
away.
no, you're great. No, you're perfect. You did exactly what I was going to do. Malika,
Okay.
Go for it.
Sure. Hi, my name is Malika Lim Eubank. I use all pronouns. I'm the CEO of Hyper RPG. We only have 4 crew members here, but we've been live streaming Monday through Friday, all sorts of tabletop things, board game things, RPG things. We love running, D&D. We've worked officially with Wizards of the Coast, but also a lot of cool indie RPGs. We're going to be running 10 candles with 5 candles later tonight for Gen Con, because we don't have a lot of time. And and my background actually is a game designer. So if you have any kind of game mechanic kind of questions, let me know.
Miriam.
Hi, I am Miriam. I use they, them pronouns, and I am the co-caretaker of Utopia, which just launched early July. And we produce actual play as well as variety shows like Ballot, which is our creator and panel discussion show. And we do one-shots and also a persistent campaign, Kahanya, which is the one I'm GMing, which is based on my world setting, Surzamin, which is a South Asian fantasy show. And I also do stuff for the Musafirs, which is again set in that world. And I am a cast member of Prism Pals, which is an all ages, all queer podcast.
Awesome. Megan.
Hi, I am Megan Caves, and I am kind of a jack of all trades in a sense over at Saving Throw. I am a kind of general producer under the executive producer who's directly above me, Dom Zook here. And I hold the title marketing director, which means that I do a lot of the social media and other random marketing things as they come up. I'm also the producer for our show Wild Cards, our Savage World show on Friday nights, as well as being in Wild Cards among other shows, Dark Lanterns, which is one of our shows with Wizards of the Coast, and occasionally IGM. So I'm kind of wherever I need to be. Much like Malika said, there's kind of just very few of us who do any of the production stuff over at Saving Throw. So we all kind of give and take and help out as we can. I am also one of the many cast members over at Dragons and Things. So I do lots of things, lots and lots of things. But that's my background is acting. I am a performer background, so I bring all of my general random set design, costume design, makeup design, production design skill sets to Saving Throw. That's me.
Great. And I am Dom Zook, he, him pronouns. I am the executive producer of Saving Throw Show. We've done official stuff for Wizards of the Coast, Paizo, Pinnacle, Renegade, a bunch of things. And I am also a cast member on Wildcards, which is our Saving Savage Worlds show, which will be tonight. We'll get into all of that because everyone here has something to promote. We'll get into the promotion stuff. But I'm just going to kick it off because we've got about an hour and a half, and I really want to get into the meat of things. So welcome, everybody. Welcome to you, Gen Con Online. Let's get started. B, question.
Yes.
You kind of talked a little bit about this, but what do you do on your channel? What is your daily regiment for this? And we'll go around the horn with this. And also, I should say, if you have questions for our panelists at the end, after we have our official questions, we will then turn to chat and try to answer as many of your questions as we can before the hook comes and takes us off stage. So, well, actually at 11 o'clock because I have another panel after that. But anyway, what do you do on your channel? What's your daily work schedule like?
Well, like everybody else here, I kind of wear a lot of hats at various times. So specific to like what I'm producing, I create a lot of the overlays. We'll find like licensed music to add to our stuff. I'm wrangling people to get together. Gosh heck, what do you have to do to set up a stream? Like you're wrangling people, you're creating the overlays, you're setting up OBS, you're also setting it up on Streamlabs just in case it's going to crash because, hey, that's a horrible reality that happens more often than I would like to admit. I don't know necessarily what a daily is like because I think out of everybody here, I'm the most like, I don't have a schedule. With the Broadswords, we stream irregularly, and I'm more often than not guesting on other people's shows. I produced a handful of things on different channels, for example, like Roll20. That was a fun stress, but it was a lot of fun. They're just like, here's assets, good luck. And you're like, wonderful, you're trusting me implicitly, thank you. And then you kind of go from there and you hope that they will respond to you in a timely manner when you have some very important questions. But like that experience in and of itself has been wonderful, and I've had really positive like takeaways from everybody that I've worked with, and that's been absolutely lovely.
Awesome. Malika.
Oh, I have I try to be like very regiment in my schedule, even though I'm a very creative person. So I usually wake up and I usually do sales meetings. I try to find sponsors for our channel. Then I meet with a producer / assistant. You guys might know her. Her name's Kaylee Bray. She's amazing. And then we kind of go over my tasks for the day. Then I go around and I make sure that each team has what they need to do their job well, whether it's hiring a producer, whether they need more money, maybe they need more equipment, maybe they need additional cast members, that kind of thing. And then I spend a lot of my time pitching like high concept things to try to generate more revenue for my business. What's interesting about Hyper, it's more than just a channel, it's a company. Other days I have to do things like bookkeeping, P&L reports, compliance things. There's a new law in the state of California where our studio is at that it's very hard to work with individual contractors, but writers, producers, and actors are all kind of individual contractors. So I have to kind of deal with that. And then in my afternoon, I'm actually on our daily live streams, cooking or doing tabletop stuff. So yeah, sometimes people ask me, like, how did you get that Power Rangers show? We did an official show with them. And it took me about 8 months of convincing a group of people this is a good idea. So that's like what I spent all my time doing.
Yeah. Megan.
Much like B said, I kind of wake up and I'm like, what needs to happen today? So generally speaking, the first thing I do is look into whatever needs to happen via our social media. So we kind of have, I've kind of set up a schedule, a daily schedule for what gets posted. We have many different shows that are on the air at many at different times. They come on the air, they go off the air. So working with the producers of each of those shows to make sure that I have the hopefully proper information to go out. I schedule that all out, make sure it's going out for the day. And I try to do that in the morning so that I don't have to worry about it the rest of the day. It's going, it's gone. And then after that, it's a lot of me going, okay, does something need to be edited? Do we need to make more promotional material for something? I focus mainly on, with a lot of that stuff, on Wildcard, since that's the main show that I produce. But then there's a lot of kind of checking in with any of our various other shows producers to make sure that their social media is going out properly. And then beyond that, it's often a lot of kind of, okay, what specific thing is coming up soon? Like, for example, we're getting ready to do our longest day marathon, which is our marathon for the Alzheimer's Association. And then that requires its own set of stuff, which we're actually not doing as extreme this year, but often that's find prize support, find any kind of press information that needs to go out, find cast members, organize time, make sure people know what they're doing and they have all the information, work with the Alzheimer's Association. So it's kind of all over the place. And I do feel like from day to day, we kind of go, okay, where are we? What happens today? What have we not been on top of, or whatever it might be. So it's really interesting when you're working with in an environment that's kind of it can be kind of last minute in a sense, and sometimes it's not. It's kind of a mix of both, and you never entirely know what's going to happen. I mean, much like we were talking about the tech, I think B said it as well. The tech can just completely leave you. Your internet can just go, nah, I'm not going to work today. So there's a lot of scrambling. So a lot of what I've done is spent time teaching myself how to do skills so that we have them to make our production a lot bigger, and figuring out how to shortcut things where I go, well, we don't have a lot of money to make some fantastic edited video. So I'm going to teach myself to edit on this weird program and hope that it looks good.
This weird program that's free and barely works. Like
something like that. Yeah. So there's a lot of teaching yourself some weird thing and how to like get around it to make it look great. That's a lot of what I do. And I spend a lot of my time during the day on Twitter, on Instagram, on Facebook, trying to retweet things, trying to engage, and kind of work in that direction. So I don't know, I may have missed 5 or 6 things, but yes, beyond beyond also performing on various different shows here and there throughout the week.
You're also a GIF maker. That was brought up in chat, and I think that's really cool.
That was another one of those things where I was like, okay, how GIFs work? Yeah. And then I looked it up and I was like, oh my God, this is super easy. Why haven't I done this? And then I went through the process of figuring out how to get them onto the social platforms, which was a nightmare of its own, but way easier than I thought. And it's one of those things that's kind of fascinating because it's in a lot of ways, for better or worse, it's almost more important to look important than to be important, because those two things kind of go together. And a lot of that is about people seeing you. So that's what I wanted to do, is go, well, we need to get ourselves out there in front of more eyeballs. And then if you're seeing these GIFs and it says saving throw and you're like, what is this? Then the hope is that eventually people follow that because they want to see it and they go, oh, look at this great thing. So that's kind of my goal, is finding other ways to market on a budget that is very small. And that's really where GIF making came from for me.
Yeah, a budget that's very small means a budget that's $0, which I think we can all relate to. Miriam.
Yeah, so my day starts at approximately midnight or so, because that's usually when I'm awake. And I spend a lot of that time preparing myself for the next day, the next week. And so far, my experience since we just launched early July has been mostly preparing for what's going to happen. Like early July, we were preparing to launch Utopia, and similar to what everyone said, it's a lot of cat wrangling, talking to people, getting graphics, getting OBS set up, getting all these things done. And then right after we got off over that launch week hurdle, Gen Con happened. So and it's not just me or my co-founder, caretaker Jess Burst of Hope, who is a great bean and a wonderful partner to work with. We are sort of this collective called Constar, which is working on all these BIM POC panels that everyone did a wonderful job. Imani, myself, Jess, and Carl from POC and TTRPGs did all like a lot of this planning to get these panels on, and it's the same thing. There's a lot of coordination. For Utopia specifically, it was casting the shows, lining up creators and panels for the discussion show, and cultivating that community at the start, where we have the players, the GMs, and the artists and the designers and panels and everything. And the thing I forgot to mention in my introduction is that Utopia is a all BIM POC channel run by BIM POC. So that's the other thing, that it has a completely different work environment too, with everybody kind of inputting what they want to do.
Will you define BIM POC for perhaps folks in chat who aren't familiar?
Yes, it stands for Black, Indigenous, Mixed People of Color.
Thank you.
Awesome. Adam.
Well, Dom, a normal day for me during the pandemic is hitting the snooze button about 17 times because time is irrelevant and it just doesn't matter anymore, does it? No, I'm teasing, of course, but I do actually hit the snooze button about 17 times. So a day for me now during these digital streams is definitely different than it was prior to. I would say that as a network, the Dragons and Things Network has gone from doing 2 shows a week to at one time 7. And so now currently I think we have 4. And so, you know, being a producer for those folks at home that may not be entirely familiar with what a producer does, they produce. And that is a very blanket statement, which basically means that if they bring together the resources that make the thing happen. So whether that is the people, the locations, the equipment, the food, they make sure all of those things can come together into one spot to make a thing. Unfortunately or fortunately, we all learn a lot of skills as streaming producers because for the most part, we don't have crews. And if we do have crews, they're very small. So as producers for a lot of at-home things, I do everything everybody else does. I try to make the thing happen. So I work with my cast to make sure they are available, willing and able. I make sure the graphics are done. And usually by making sure I'm the one doing them because I have that skill set. And so I can do it. So you look to where those skill sets are. And oftentimes, and I'm sure we'll get into this later, you work with friends usually in these small groups. And that certainly is as challenging as they say. It's also super rewarding. But a day in the life of Adam is usually sitting down at this computer and working. And that is probably spending way too much time on graphics and trying to continue to tweak the look of my show, which, little secret for all the folks at home, doesn't matter. Once you've gotten your show looking at least to this level, just don't stop doing it. So this is kind of a message for me to go back and watch. Stop working on graphics, Adam. Pay attention to sponsors. Pay attention to other opportunities. So I do a lot of that, and a lot of usually scolding myself for working on the wrong thing while I should be editing something that would be a trailer that would go out, or working with our social media team to try to get social tweets out, or again, talking to sponsors or brands to try to get more deals. So usually I'm doing the wrong thing. But that graphic, that mattered. That brought in, let me tell you, tripled the viewership.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And we can ignore the slight typo that happens, especially after you launch it.
Yeah.
So frustrating.
Yeah. Thank you all. I also do all these things. Everything that you all do, I do too. Everyone who's producing these types of things, I think is doing a lot of work. And really, I think what it boils down to is sort of how you perceive the show and what you want to get out of it. And I think all of us here are working on, producing quality entertainment and making sure that the audience can access it and has a good time watching it. And I think that's everyone's basically common goals. But then from there, it's how much work are you willing to put into it? I am the only full time uh, uh, employee of of Saving Throw, and Megan helps me out like with 98% of the things that I do, and yeah, it's a really interesting. I thought that not having being out of the studio would mean less work for me, but it's actually like doubled the work that I do working from home. And so all of you who have been streaming Zoom Roll20 games for ever, hats off to you. It's just as much work as working out of a studio. Anyway, moving on. What are the biggest differences between a home game and a streamed game? This is something that I think we run up against a lot. I have a lot of people ask me this question. They want to just transport their home game onto the internet and hope that Critical Role will happen. And it's maybe.
Is that not how it works? That's not.
Yeah, it does.
It
Okay.
appears easy.
It's worked once. It's worked once, so it could work again.
So it could work again.
So Megan, why don't you start us off here?
I really think it depends upon what your goal is. Because at the end of the day, for better or worse, what's really great about Twitch and what we can do these days is you can literally film anything and put it up and people can see it. So if you are just like, hey, like literally what Dom said, you just want to film your home game, more power to you. If that's all you want to do, then do it. But if you're wanting to grow something, I think the most important thing is specificity. And what I mean by specificity is figuring out what is the specific thing you're selling for this game. Like for Wildcards, for example, we really, both the GM, my husband, Jordan Caves Callerman, and I went to drama school together. And so we really approach things from a theatrical standpoint. We want to approach it from really telling a theatrical story, utilizing the games. We kind of look at it as dramatic improv that utilizes the game of Savage Worlds to help tell our story. And we have a cast that's kind of on board with that. And we tell a particularly grounded horror story. However, we have other shows on our channel, like Tempting Fate, that is a lasers and feelings show, and it's all about fun, crazy characters that sometimes get into some emotional things, but it's a very different tone. And that's great. Both of those two things exist simultaneously, and they are two very different things. At Saving Throw in general, we really want to focus on telling stories. So that is something that we keep an eye to on each of our shows. But at the end of the day, while I think there are a lot of elements that are important, like if you look at it as a product you're selling, like a toaster, for example, that if nobody knows about your toaster, nobody's going to buy your toaster. If your toaster doesn't function, nobody's going to buy your toaster. So you really have to approach it from people need to hear about it, people need to like it, and any other thing you want to do to sell your toaster. Essentially, it's the same basic thing, and I think it's really, really easy to forget about that stuff. But that means you need marketing materials, that means you need ads, that means you need a platform to send that stuff out. So yes, you want to create a great game, but then you have to add the entire production side of it. And that has been probably the biggest struggle, because a lot of people who are coming into it are people who are just like, I just play a game. And then the production side is like, and that doesn't even include the tech side, which is not my wheelhouse. That's Dom. He manages most of that stuff. So you can kind of see at that point how you have so many things happening. And then also, whenever you're dealing with the layer of an audience, if you come at it from a performer stance, you kind of have who you are with your group of players, your people, maybe you're all friends. You have who you are in the business, and then you have who you are on camera, and then you have who you are as your characters. So you're managing a lot of different layers. So in that sense, it just adds a layer of complication. However, I find that it adds a fantastically fun layer of complication. So that may sound like kind of a convoluted answer, but that's kind of the thing. We've gone in circles at Saving Throw, and we've really grown. And I can say this for sure, because at one point we're like, this is what you need to focus on all your shows. And then we kind of go, wait, no, this is what you need to focus on in all of your shows. It's really an evolving process. And at the end of the day, the most important thing is that you are having fun, because that translates. There's one thing I learned in school, that it is way more interesting to watch someone who is interested, not trying to be interesting. So if you enjoy what you're doing, and you are doing, and your cast enjoys what you're doing, you're going to have a lot more benefit there. So if you can tell what I'm saying, it's really about finding those levels of which thing is most important to you and what your goal is. If your goal is making money, then focus on what that is. That's lots of things the chat can do. That's insane, jumping things all over the place, eating hot peppers, whatever it might be. Or maybe you find a completely different way to do that. So that's kind of my long-winded answer.
Nice. Malika, I'll turn it over to you.
I just want to echo what Megan said there. I think there's a lot of wisdom, especially asking yourself, what is your goal, right? Because if your goal is to have fun with friends, taking your home game and putting it on Twitch might not make it fun anymore, honestly. For Hyper RPG, we are a group of professional storytellers. So we're creative professionals. It is a business, but we want to create shared storytelling moments with the chat room. And that actually determines who we work with. Additionally, there's a second goal at Hyper RPG to create opportunities for underrepresented voices in gaming. So entertainment, on camera, game design, that kind of thing. So that's where our goal is, and that's how we approach it. But I like to put this disclaimer out there, or this warning, that I think what you see on many popular Twitch streams, including Critical Role, and I love those guys. My dog is crying. I'm sorry. I don't know if you can hear that. He's missing his dad. Here, come on.
Oh,
Can you pick them up?
We need a
Yes, you
dog
can.
shot.
Yes.
They're pick upable.
puppy
Go.
Stream.
There you go.
Doggo.
Oh.
What is their name?
Yeah, his name's Kaiju Big Battle. But what I want to emphasize is that's not what you should be trying to achieve as a GM or a DM at home. What you're trying to do at home is create an awesome environment for your group, for your players, facilitate the fun. When it comes to running a business, or maybe you are an actor, or your friends are a group of actors and you want to turn this into a business. I mean, one thing that I learned, falling asleep on the couch at the set of Critical Role, is they are so professional. They're professional actors, and they're at a level where they're even directing other actors. Additionally, from a very early stage, they took social media very seriously, like it was their job, like their career depended on it. And if you'll notice, every day of the week, they actually take turns making sure that at least one of the cast members is talking to the Critical Role audience every day of the week. So even though they only started off broadcasting one day out of the week, they were engaging and growing their community every day of the week. And they leveraged their own professional opportunities, being voice actors in famous video games and stuff, and it just fed back into that community. So they were really smart and business-minded about the whole entire thing, but they worked really, really hard. They work on it kind of all the time. So if you're like not into that, and you really, you have to dig deep and ask yourself like, oh, I just thought it would be like a fun thing to do with my friends, like maybe that's not the right path for you.
B, I'd like to hear your feelings.
So y'all have just described my past 2 years. A group of friends where we all met online, on the fitness group, where there was like an adjacent group to play games. My DM Victoria was like, hey, I think you're nerdy enough. I've listened to this one podcast called The Adventure Zone. Do you want to make a D&D podcast? And I was just like, I don't know what D&D is. Sure, great. So the expectations of literally how do you take your home game and turn it online. So I missed the home game part. I missed that fun with friends, and I got to jump right into here's the stress of being a performer online, trying to manage social media, trying to secure sponsors, trying to engage with the community all the time. Like there was so much involved, and like y'all have done a wonderful job at properly expressing what you can expect, almost, because it's a lot. I'm not complaining by any means. I love what I do, but oh my word, with only 4 people in the Broadswords, for example, technically only 2 of us are active, like constantly active Broadswords members, whereas we're producing things, we're editing, we're constantly engaging with other people in the community. We're constantly working with other folks to engage or to secure different partnerships. We're trying to like talk with other folks to get sponsors, and like it is exhausting. So if you do want to take your table online, like I think the distinction that we've drawn between, do you want this to be fun? Do it for fun. Toss it on Twitch. Get whatever camera, get your laptop camera, like this is for fun for you. Don't stress about the graphics like Adam. Don't over worry about your audio levels. Just do it for fun and like make it yours. But if you want it to be something professional, you are in for a world of work.
Yeah.
It is work.
Miriam.
Yes. So a home game is you don't have to worry about any sort of deck for the most part. And a lot of my experience, even with home games, has been mainly online. So dealing with people of varying internet capabilities, varying mic capabilities, some not even having a mic and having to have one text player with a group of voice chat players, or one video and 3 voice chat and 1 text. It's been very interesting. But echoing everyone else, it's definitely asking the question of what you want to do, for sure, because a stream game is work. Regardless of whether you're doing it for money or not, it is work. It is someone has to learn how to use OBS or some sort of broadcasting software. Somebody has to set up that Twitch account or YouTube account or whatever streaming you're going to do. Someone has to make sure everybody has a mic. Otherwise, why are you even broadcasting it? You don't necessarily have to have video, although it's more entertaining if you're looking for an audience. And then the other thing is, what level of audience and interaction do you want to have? Do you want to be interrupted during the game and have that inviting the world to your game, or do you want them to just watch you? Those are some things to consider, because I think at least in the case of Critical Role, they don't really pay attention to chat as much. I mean, maybe they'll answer chat, but it's not affecting their game per se. And those are questions you have to ask. And for sure, if you're not having fun, don't do it. There are other ways to record yourself. Like I also do podcasts, so that has a few steps less, but not any easier to do, where all you're concerned about is the audio quality. Sometimes that's even harder, because you have to make sure, because in fact, the difference between a podcast and a streamed game is that someone has to edit that, and depending on how many audio layers you have, you're dealing with anywhere between 5 to 10 different tracks.
Welcome to a new skill you have to learn as well.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And if that wasn't your day job anyway, that's a new skill to tackle simultaneously.
Yeah. Adam.
Yeah, there's I don't know that I could say anything that is different than what everybody else has already said, but I will certainly try because I'm on the internet. No, I think some of the takeaways are fun. As Megan pointed out early on, and we've all echoed, fun is crucial. And fun comes down to not just, hey, at home, I have fun playing the game, but if you are streaming a game and your players or your GM is not having fun, don't do that. Don't do that anymore, because that will not be an enjoyable thing to watch. If your players are not engaged in what is happening and having fun, it will not be fun to watch, or at least as fun as it can be. If you do have professional actors or professionals that are hired to be there, but they are not having fun, or they are just there for whatever you're able to offer them, don't do that. Or do that, sure, but I think that you would probably have greater fulfillment from finding folks who are really engaged and having fun in what they are doing. Ultimately, I do think that if your goal is making money, don't stream tabletop RPGs, because you can pretty much find less than a handful that are successful enough that it's probably that revenue is not a problem for them, or in the traditional sense that it can be for a lot of smaller streamers. And the amount of tabletop streams versus the amount of financially successful is so vastly different, that if that's your goal, maybe try a different tact with that. Having said that, also note that communication is extraordinarily important at your table and when you're doing a stream. And they're important for slightly different reasons. So when you're at your home game, you want to communicate, obviously, any sort of issues that come up. You want to communicate about the game, about how you're feeling, about all that type of thing. And you do have a communication between player and GM and player to tell the best story so that everybody is having fun at the table. However, in a streamed game, I'm going to let you in on a secret. The show is conceivably more important than the game at times, because we are doing this for entertainment. And there are times where decisions are made on the fly by a GM or a player or a producer, or even ahead of time, that will dictate how you do a game that you just may not want to do that, because at your home game, you can do whatever you want ultimately. And on stream, unfortunately, you can't always do that, because maybe you only have 3 hours, or you've got to hit this story point because you've only got 12 episodes in your season, or you want to avoid this because that doesn't come up for another. It's all a balancing act. And again, ultimately, if doing more work to play a game is not what you're aiming for, don't stream them either, because it is 100% more work, just as everybody's pointed out, with the tech side, with the people wrangling, with all of that, with producing. But it's also more work for your actual game. And that can take away some fun. It can do that. Now, obviously, there's a lot of different things you can do to either mitigate that or flip that on its head, where you can have fun with that. But just know that there are certain, I'll call them pitfalls, but that's probably the wrong word. There's certain obstacles in your way when you're doing that. And I was trying to see, and last but not least, I did want to mention, sorry, I took a couple notes because I was like, man, is there anything I can add to this conversation that hasn't already been said? One thing I would say, that streaming a game that you can do at home, regardless of whether your choice is to just stream your game or not. Remember that while technology is definitely your enemy, and there are tech goblins that are absolutely after you all the time,
I don't know what
tech
you're
is
talking
also
about.
tech is also your friend. And there are tools that you can use tech-wise to enhance your game. Something as simple as Sirenscape. I mean, I don't mean to give a sponsor shout out, but the fact is, using Sirenscape is a soundboard, it's ambience, it's music. It can just enhance what you're doing. Maybe it's just cutting to, like, you can do little things in, Photoshop, or, I mean, if your tools are as limited as MS Paint or PowerPoints, you can do those things and just bring them to your own home games. I've played in home games where I had a GM come in with his own he brought out his laptop and he was like, here's our cutscene intro for our home game. And I was like, that's cool.
Oh,
That's
cool.
We never streamed it or anything. It was just a home. And I was like, oh, that's really cool. Thanks for putting that together.
Nice.
And it's important to remember that those tools exist for you, and, use them, because they will enhance whether you're at home or streaming.
B, you wanted to add something in here?
Yes, just because it had kind of come up in the conversation and it had been mentioned in chat a little bit. And it's like the parasocial relationships that when you are a streamer or anybody in that space and the audience that you have, when you kind of do this from your home game, you don't have to engage with other folks beyond like your immediate friends that you're playing with. And then we skip ahead to say Critical Role, where they don't have to engage with their chat because like they're already all the way up there, and we're climbing that ladder, but we have to communicate with our chat and we have to engage with folks on a level that is also incredible, and it's like it's a lot from us, but like that also forms those parasocial relationships, and that adds an extra layer as content creators to create that divide. Like this is a friendship that folks are making with either the character that you're being, your GM, like your professional face, and that's something that folks often don't consider when they are getting ready to become like an online personality, be it what it is. And that's really scary as somebody who's had some wonderful and some incredibly bizarre parasocial interactions. I wish there had been like some kind of primer for getting into that. So that's also something I really think is important to stress.
And
Yeah.
Sorry.
I also wanted to add that the parasocial relationship isn't just basically between the performers and the audience. It's also there in as a community leader when you're building your community to make sure that you're super clear on what the terms and conditions are, that this is all volunteer based, or this is a paid gig, or this is a profit sharing, or however it is, that everyone's clear and you're not taking advantage of their time and kindness.
Mm-hmm.
I just want to jump in real
yeah.
quick there. This is something I want to disclose because I think what you just said there, B, is really important. I just started working a couple months ago with a therapist specifically who works with other activists to make sure that they don't burn out, because I feel an enormous pressure, as like this brown human being on the internet telling stories saying, hey, diversity is important, all those kinds of things, to manage my own kind of inner stuff, and then me as a leader, and then me as a person who's like shouting on the internet trying to get people to love each other more. So I do feel an enormous pressure, and I just want to say, like, I'm not perfect. I haven't figured it all out. There's a lot of crap that I have to deal with all the time, and mental health is really, really important.
Yeah, I will echo all of that. It's very rewarding to be able to engage with people who are excited about the work that you're doing. It feels great, but it's also it's a lot. It's there's a spotlight on you, and that means that, to me, there's a responsibility to step into that. If you are going to do that, there's a responsibility, and I take that very seriously. I have always wanted to do that as a performer and kind of be able to represent something that I think is important to represent for people who it can affect. And that is a weight. And I totally feel that weight too. And it can be overwhelming because, yeah, we're all people too, and we're all learning at the same time. And you have to be willing to make mistakes publicly. You have to be willing to be vulnerable publicly, and that is a lot. I'm just totally echo Malika. Therapy is super helpful. Therapy is not just for somebody who's messed up. I swear to you, everyone
For
can benefit
everyone.
of it. Yes, it really can. It has a bad rap, and I hated it before, so I was a part of that bad rap. I get it. But yeah, it is be prepared for that dynamic. Be prepared. Yeah.
10 seconds to jump in real quick, hitting the buzzer.
I recognize
sorry,
Adam
don't play
from
me off. Yeah,
Dragons and
don't play
Things.
me off. Don't play me off. All I was gonna say was, even if it's not that, take time for yourself. Be okay to say, we're not doing a stream today because we just like, in truth, I need to stop streaming a little bit. Right now, I'm to that point where I'm like, Adam needs a break, because you just got to have time to just take time, collect yourself, do what you got to do, and and go back to it if you want to. Never feel obligated that you have to, because it's your decision, and it's what's best for you. So just wanted to add that.
And
Yeah.
I just want to add one small thing to that as well, that um, if you're, for example, if you're streaming for just 3 hours one day, 1 week, it's not just 3 hours. Even if you just focus on production, it's like half hour on both sides. You're prepping for it, you're getting people, you have to get into the headspace. You could easily be pushing 10 or 20 hours for that 3 hours a week.
Yeah, it's not for the faint of heart, and I mean, we're not doing rocket science. We're not curing cancer. No one has illusions that of that, but it is a job, and I think if you want to see things like sponsors, you want to get someone to come and support the channel and maybe even eventually get paid to do what you love doing, you have to have that presentation of, I believe in this as a business. And we did that first thing. My very first thing when I started Saving Throw was, we are going to have an interactive chat. We are going to, because Twitch allows us to do that, and I don't see anyone really interacting with chat in a role-playing game thing. This was before Critical Role, so I was like, no one seems to be doing that. And I started there so that we didn't have to go, play catch up later on. And if you go, but I had to have the mentality of, this is a business. And so when I brought people on, I was like, listen, we're here to have fun. We're here to play a game, but also maybe make some money, you know? And when people kind of had that mentality, it really helped smooth things down. And we had lots of growing pains over the years of, making sure that people understood that, because we'd have friends coming in and going, I just want to play a game. And it's like, that's awesome, but we can't do that here. Like, you're literally an actor in a theatrical piece, and you can't just come in and start acting off book. Like, that's going to screw everyone up. You have to know what you're in and accept that.
Dom, I wanted to jump in on what you said about maybe making money, and I wanted to just really quickly mention that Dom isn't saying he's in it to become a lucrative tabletop streamer. What he's saying is exactly what Miriam said, which is, if you see a 3-hour stream, there's 20 hours, if not more, because you have to factor in all the people's times that get invested into that. And ultimately, what you're just trying to do is just be a good enough person to compensate people for the time that they have put in. Yeah. And that's really all. I mean, I know that's all of our goals, is just, hey, can I just pay you for your time? And I'm probably not paying you well, because I don't, unfortunately, have the revenue to pay you what you're truly worth. But that is what we all are aiming to do. We are certainly not in it to be the Scrooge McDucks of tabletop RPGs.
It's peanuts. It's peanuts, but it's meant to signify that I value your time.
Exactly. And as Malika said, California has rules about independent contractors, and I feel you from the bottom of my heart. I remember last year when that stuff was going in, and I was all like, but they're only working 3 hours a week for 10 weeks. Oh, they're employees now. Okay, cool. Yeah, it's a lot. But that's enough there. Okay, next question, Malika.
Yeah.
So we know that everyone knows playing tabletop games, board games, RPGs. There's a lot of physical stuff. There's people playing around a table often. I know you and I, Adam, we've been playing in a studio a lot, and so we have those spaces where we can do that with others. But in a remote setup, and knowing that the audience is also remote, how have you adapted things like a tabletop game into a streamed video concept?
Well, actually, Dom, it's interesting that you are asking me this first because we have not done our tabletop RPGs once the quarantine started happening. We realize our community expects a certain quality from us, and so we just haven't done that. We've only played games in the studio with the people who live here. This is my apartment unit. My studio is downstairs. It's our garage. We converted that. So on not quarantine times, for us, it's all about different cameras, camera angles, and lenses. We have a top-down camera. We have a side view. We even have like a little one on an automatic slider when we were playing Warhammer, so you can see all those gorgeous minis that we spend too long painting. And then we also have a lot of cool like on-screen overlay stuff and Twitch extension stuff. I was very proud to have helped release one of the first extensions, panel extensions on Twitch, right underneath the video player that I helped design for my Power Rangers game, where you could be a Power Ranger, gain energy points, and then send them to the Rangers who are RPGing live on the show. So for us, it's all about technology, technology, technology.
Let's go with Miriam.
Okay, so I'm primarily doing everything online, using Zoom, using video conferencing, and really, especially since a lot of the games that I've run and I've dealt with, they're very narrative. There's very little dice rolling. There's very little crunchy mechanics. It's to try and focus on the people that are there, make sure their faces are nice and big, and also to like, even though I had talked about how Critical Role doesn't have to engage in chat, that we engage in chat when possible, and a lot of times like puzzle solving, depending on the player, the game, and everything, we let the audience participate in solving that particular puzzle. Like for example, in a recent our first episode where we were playing in Quest, and the doctor's ability is to diagnose and essentially play a hangman game to figure out what the diagnose is. It was suddenly the audience was also participating, and for narrative at least, it's definitely making sure that you can see the players' faces, having that audience participation. And if you are using systems, like for example, if you're doing a For the Queen game, Roll20 is great because it has that ability to have the cards and you can put it up, so you can have a virtual table of sorts to participate that way.
Adam.
Sorry, I had to unmute myself. Actually, I have sort of a split answer with what Malika was saying. So when the quarantine happened, we were doing a show called Dragons and Things. Ta-da! And we were doing it on Tuesdays and Fridays in our studio, and we had invested too much money in making that look great and have all the cameras and the lenses and all of the things and the bells and whistles. So when the pandemic hit, we said, okay, well, we cannot produce that level from home, so we are going to postpone that show, Dragons and Things Phantom. But what are we going to do? And so because we have a scenario where we have a very, very large cast all in their own homes, so we had to go to webcams and things like that. So we had to figure out how to produce things. Now, I would say, because we tell, much like many of the channels, we have a lot of storytellers on our network. So we originally started with one storyteller, and that was because we did one show called Dragons and Things, again, as I mentioned. I'll just keep name dropping it. But GM Jim Jam was our storyteller, and early on, Jim and I had a conversation, and I had grown up playing with Jim as my GM, and he always used maps and minis. And as we started to move into games just in studio, we said, let's not do that, because we found that maps and minis, to us, this was our decision. This is not saying this is just exists in the world, but our decision was that takes too much time. They slow down the game. And as a production, we didn't want to slow it down to say, okay, well, how many? It's 5 feet. Okay. And then my cone goes, how do I? So what we did was we just said, okay, we're just going to do theater of the mind. And then it became up to me as the producer to add in those visual baby rattles, those things that would just sort of like catch your eye, that would be whether they're graphics or whether they are camera angles or interesting things like that, or just honestly pieces of video that we'd make, and put in the show or things like that. So I would say that our methods for bringing in the audience initially started with, hey, if we can all imagine it together, then nobody's sort of missing out, because if we're all missing out on the visual, then we're all together in our own minds seeing what we're seeing. And so that was a choice we made. Now, since the pandemic has hit and we've done digital shows, we've brought in things like Roll20 and things like that. I stand by my statement. I think it slows down the show, but it adds in a visual layer, and it does get everybody on the same page in a different way. So we'll continue to do different styles of shows, and for different community members, they will like certain styles better than others. I know that we'll never please everybody. But the best thing that we can do is to try and tell a story that we're all involved in at the same time. So if that is interactions with our fans, we initially started just sort of spewing out comments whenever it felt, we were like, there's a comment, here's another comment. And we realized that that was actually hurting our storytelling because we were taking so many breaks. So now what we've done is we've just added in comment breaks. We just say, okay, there's a time and a place where we will specifically take a break, and we'll just read comments for the next however long we read comments, and then we're going to get right back in the story right where we left off. And so it also is really helpful from a technical standpoint, because if we go back as a podcast, we can just say, okay, cut that out and just continue the story. So that's been very helpful. And shoot, there was one other point I wanted to make. Oh no, I'm running out of time. The last thing I wanted to mention was that in studio, we would have a producer, which is usually just a person, cultivating our chat, meaning that we had a Google document where that person would say, hey, here's a funny comment, or here's a relevant comment, or here's just a clever comment, and I'll drop that in the Google Doc. Because when we were in studio, what we didn't want to do was have all of our cast members looking at Twitch chat. Oh, okay. No, I don't want to forget that one. Wait, no, scroll, go, and not focusing on the game, focusing on the GM, focusing on what they were doing. So for us, it was like, okay, well, now here's a couple comments, and those comments could have been from a half an hour ago. They could be right now, but that way we held on to them, and we held the ones that we felt were most relevant. Now for an at-home game, everybody can see Twitch chat, and so you do get a lot of what I'm doing right now, which is, a lot of this stuff. But that's where I'll leave it there.
B.
Yes. Sorry, Adam kind of pulled the. We're talking about adapting games to a video platform where a member of the audience isn't there to see. Yes. Yeah. Okay. I mean, traditionally, I would echo what Miriam had said about we're huge proponents of theater of the mind. But we'll also have a Roll20, because Roll20 has really wonderful integrations. Tentatively, as long as you're willing to put in the time and effort to figure out how to use it, which is saying a lot.
Huge learning curve.
Oh, it is. It really is. But once you've learned it, you're wonderful. And you have 3D dice rollers, depending on the game. Like if it's for the Queen, you have the visual card aspect. I once ran a game for Roll20, I don't even know what it was called, Till Dawn. And everything is set up beautiful. I'm going to be running a game of Burn Bright for Roll20 soon, and it is a game that was created with Roll20 in mind. It was for Roll20, so it's integrated beautiful, and it's very visual friendly. So we have that, but then it's really still, you're leaning on theater of the mind. And if I could flip it, I had to one time, I think the Adventure Zone had an RPG coming out, a game that they had made. And they, the Broadswords, we got to demo it on stream. But it's a very physical in-person game, and all the broadswords, we live in different parts of Canada, so like we couldn't be in person to like look at the cards and show it off to people, and it was this horrible, interesting, like it was, we tried our best to do theater of the mind, but as players we couldn't see what our GM was trying to do. We were working with a system that we had no idea about. Like, we got all the dorky references, but it was simultaneously incredibly difficult. But like, that challenge was a lot of fun, and it created a lot of interesting chat on Twitch because people were struggling just as much as I was as the player, and like, that was kind of fun. But I don't think that that's ideal for anything. Like, as a one-off, fine, it was great, it was wonderful, but if we had to do that again, we would really have to consider a better way to go about it, because theater of the mind is wonderful to a point, and you have to consider the what you're using. Is it a board game? Is it an RPG? And how can you adapt that? And like, everybody has some really wonderful tools, with like rolling cameras. I didn't even know that was a thing for games. So that's wonderful. But when your tools are like your own Zoom screen, a lot of it relies on what you as a content creator are able to articulate, I guess.
Yeah.
I have 2 words: virtual desktops.
I know, I know, and I'm dipping my toes back into it because it's gonna make my life easier.
Hell's Helen has a question, and we'll get to questions shortly once we've gone through other stuff. So hang on there. Megan, would you like to talk about this?
Sure. This has been an interesting thing because it's evolved at Saving Throw. Much like I was saying before, it's kind of, there's a lot of like learning on the job, because in some ways this is still kind of a wild west. It's a new frontier. We're all still kind of trying to figure out what works and what doesn't work. And honestly, it's really hard to track and quantify that kind of stuff. So at the end of the day, you kind of like what we were talking about before, you kind of have to go, this is my metric, this is what I want, and this is just what we're going to go for, and we're going to push through it until we have enough evidence that it doesn't work or it does. So much like Malika was saying, I believe earlier, we're a studio. We do games in studio, in person. We have the different camera angles, and we've really tried to utilize, I can speak mostly for Wildcard since that's really the one where I've implemented a lot of this myself, but we've really wanted to utilize costume. We wanted to utilize backdrops, things that whenever somebody sees the little tiny thumbnail goes, what's that? That seems interesting. Something that will pull people in. And then trying to now translate that in the quarantine via Roll20 has been really interesting. It's like, okay, well, we can still do costumes. We can still do this. We want to make it look as much like it did in the studio as we possibly can. So, and then you have to consider, bringing in the chat, because they're essentially another player at your table. They're kind of an absent player, but you don't want them to feel like they're not a part of it. That doesn't always have to be in the game itself. At Saving Throw, we have a lot of interaction, and we've adjusted that as we've gone, because we've gone, okay, this takes too much control over the game. We can't tell the game that we want, which at the end of the day is actually a negative for chat, whether or not they are conscious of it in that way. So it's about finding that balance between going, okay, we have to make some money, we have to have some interaction, we also want to tell our game. And honestly, we still haven't figured out the best one. It's constantly growing, but beyond that, you can do so many cool things outside of the game itself. So you have your game, but then you can, like right now, we have a new campaign that we're getting ready to begin that nobody knows about. It's a big secret, and we have clues, and you guys have to figure out the clues. So we're pulling people in. We're like, hey, you, the chat, get to do this puzzle. So there's a lot of kind of thinking outside of the game itself and going, how can I expand this game outside of the people that are at the table, and create a community game that's everyone who wants to be involved. And I cannot necessarily tell you the right way to do that. I can tell you the right way that has worked for us so far, but it doesn't work the same for everybody. So there's a lot of like, you do you, but there are elements of thinking of all of, you got to keep in mind and be able to think ahead of how everything you do affects your audience, affects your players, affects the channel, affects you, and the work that goes into that on camera and off camera. That's kind of my complicated answer to that.
Yeah. Yeah. There's a lot. I think everyone. This is why I'm moderating, because everyone will have exactly what I would say. So this is awesome. So we've got about 20 minutes or so left, and so we have a couple more questions that we're going to go through, and then we're going to take your questions. But because we've only got about 20 minutes left, this is going to be lightning round questions for everybody. So, Miriam, we've kind of talked about this a little bit. We've talked about parasocial stuff and working with chat. But what ways specifically have you used to build your community?
Social media is a huge part of it. It is also developing and nurturing the relationships you have, where you meet them, and channels and stuff like that. Like a lot of the people I have met that have formed the initial group for Utopia have been other BIM POC that I've met on various other channels, and especially Welcome to the Party, which is a streaming RPG channel, and it's use the social media tools that are out there, but also try to do it in a way that is less almost like using and more about developing those relationships, and yeah, like that's the bulk of it.
Yeah. Adam.
Community. Community is huge, and community doesn't just mean your own community. It means, hey, Twitch is a community. Tabletop RPGs are a community. We relate in community in so many different ways, and I think that's really what we all are talking about. And so the tools that we use. We make videos for our shows like Things in Space. We make videos for our shows like Crits and Giggles, where we put them out there in social media. We put them in our mid-show. We have a mid-show content where we take a break. Everybody's got to use the restroom, grab a snack, things like that. And we try to make content that is worth engaging in, whether it's just laughing at or saying, oh my gosh, I want to see that again. And then we obviously try to go out to our fellow Twitch streamers and interact with them, watch their shows, push their shows, engage with them, engage on social media, build a Discord, all of the ways that you can have community. We try to do that. So also it's a great show, Community. So 6 seasons in the
Malika.
2 things: collaborate with other content creators and live your truest self, so that when people are engaging with you, they're the kind of people who are reaffirming who you are and what you want to make.
Mm-hmm. Megan.
I think one of the biggest things is to respect your chat. This is coming from my theater background as well, but you don't want to treat your audience like they're stupid. And that may sound obvious, but whenever you have this kind of big amorphous group of people and you just have text coming up, it can be hard to keep track of the identity of it in total, if that makes sense. And that may not make sense until you've experienced it, but you, just like you would another player, another person, they are valuable. You respect them. You respect that they've come here for this, and you don't talk down to them in the content that you're building for them. It's really interesting when you're trying to think like that and trying to realize, okay, well, what's going to pull them in? What do they enjoy? But also, you don't want to go so far down that path that you listen to every single thing that they do. There's kind of this give and take. And for me, that does create the community, because the way you treat and view the perspective you have of your chat is the way is what they reflect back to you. And it kind of goes back and forth, and there's so much richness that you can gain from that. And I think whenever you approach your chat that way, you approach your community that way, it fosters a community of people who are excited about the content, and then they get excited about interacting with each other, and they create friendships, and the community builds out from there. So it's very much about just that perspective and respect to me, and that's really something. It's interesting because each of our shows on Saving Throw have their own community, and some of them are more vocal than others. Some of them make more art than others. It's really fascinating. And then Saving Throw in and of itself has a community. So you can kind of see the little microcosm of how those different things interact. But I will echo what I think everyone has said here. Social media, marketing, the marketing materials you put out, the interactions you have, the hashtags you use, the people you the people you collaborate with. It may seem mind numbing and like it doesn't matter. It matters so much. All the things that the little things that you do, you don't know how much they affect. So yeah, that's kind of a convoluted answer, but that is my answer.
That was a great answer.
That was a great answer. Not a lightning round answer, but it was a great answer.
Sorry, I know that.
I have a lightning round answer.
Okay.
We're good. So yes, everything everybody has said, very important. The only takeaway that I would like to tack on is when you're engaging with your community, be mindful of what you're giving away. Don't give all of you away. You are a personality on the internet. You're not 100% you. So be mindful of what you're comfortable being honest about. Like I love to scream about social justice on the internet, but that's what I have the emotional energy to put out, and I'm more than happy for my community to engage with me about that. Don't start putting out things that you don't realize you have the spoons for, because it happens. And then when folks engage with you because they're like, this is wonderful, tell me more, and you're just like, hey, I can't. You learn that. So just be kind to yourself when you're engaging with your communities, because all of these tools are ways to do it, and they're wonderful.
Great.
And also things that you are comfortable being vulnerable about, for sure, because the internet can be a reaffirming place. It can also tear you to pieces.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay. One sentence on this final question, and then we're going to jump quickly over to a few viewer questions, and then we'll wrap it up. We'll say where everyone can find you and what you got going on for Gen Con this year. What advice do you have? One sentence advice, your best advice. You're in an elevator. This is your log line advice for a new showrunner. And let's start with Adam.
You know I'm not going to give you one sentence. Here we go.
You better, or I'm cutting you off.
Do it right, and do it like nobody else can. If you are a showrunner and you need 2 cameras, don't do it with 1. If do it the right way to make your vision come to life, because even if nobody watches your thing, at the end of the day, you want to be proud of your thing. And do it, whatever you're doing, in a way that is your thing. Do it so that nobody else can. Everybody on this stream right now has a production, has a thing, has multiple things that are theirs. I cannot make the thing that Malika makes. Malika cannot make the thing that Adam Rady makes. That's just how it works. And that's what makes your show special and yours.
Miriam.
Know how many spoons and time and energy and your skill levels for doing it, because there's no class to teach this. A lot of it is you learn on the job. So gauge your spoons, time, and energy, and find good people to help and support you.
B.
I mean, that one kind of pulls from what I wanted to say, is don't be afraid to ask for help. Everybody I know who started off this, like trying to produce their own thing, they drown. They always drown because they're not willing to ask for help. Reach out. There are so many people that want to see you succeed, and just ask.
Megan.
Yeah, be humble enough to learn. You are not an island. Yes, ask for help. And do what's true to you. Everyone is going to have everyone is going to say they hate this thing you're doing or they love this thing you're doing. You have to let go of that and stay true to you, because at the end of the day, that's what's going to be the best and that's what's going to grow.
Malika.
I would say surround yourself with a support network of people who you don't work directly with, because at times the people you work directly with are going to be hard on you and you feel like the whole world is crashing down.
Excellent.
I needed that.
Oh
yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, that's fantastic. I will say, I don't have more advice than what you all have said. That these are all excellent points. I will say, if you feel like you don't have anyone that you can turn to talk to, you do. You have me and other people, because I am more than happy to answer questions. I have answered many questions of people asking me, hey, what camera do you use? How do you get those captions working? What, how do you talk to people? And I don't know how to talk to people, so you're on your own with that. But I am more than happy to help people get into this if that's something that they're interested in. But I'm going to come to you from my standpoint, which is going to be different from B's standpoint, which is going to be different from Adam's standpoint, and Malika and Miriam and Megan. Everyone's going to have their own way of doing things, as we have shown here. So just be aware of that. Okay, really quick. 2 questions that I've seen thus far. I believe this was Hell's Helen had a question. Would you invest into a job at Wizards of the Coast, but keep your channel? Because I, myself, would want to make sure that there's stable income and to feel secure. That's my fear. But I'd love creative freedom, which is what a channel brings. What do you all think?
I'll go last.
If you have enough
Same.
time,
I'll go second last.
if you have enough time to do both of those things, then good. I don't have enough time to do my channel the way that I'm doing it and have a stable day job. I wish I did. My loved ones wish I did. And they would encourage me to do that. I'm taking the question as, would you take a stable day job and continue to do your network? And I just think that the short answer is, if you can maintain what you're doing for your network, your channel, your broadcast, your show, then yeah, I mean, absolutely. A stable income is great to have. For me, it was a choice I made, maybe not the best choice, but it was a choice I made to not do that and to try and invest all of my time into my dream. So
yeah, that's my life story. It's interesting because my father-in-law is terrified by the way we live, in the sense that we're just kind of living like, oh, there's some money, great. And he would rather, for him specifically, works a job that he does not love, but he's very well taken care of, very secure. For me, that's terrifying. It's not that I don't want to be secure, but I don't want to feel controlled. So it's really a lifestyle choice. I agree. I think that having money and feeling secure is great. It's just about what you're willing to sacrifice and give and take. And for me, even though I think in a lot of ways you work more hours and a lot harder whenever you're essentially freelance or you're working for yourself than from what I understand some people do at their day jobs. But it's what is important to me. I'm willing to make that sacrifice. So that's really, to me, what it's about more than anything else. As a person who came out here to be a performer, I knew what I was getting myself into. It's not easy, but yeah, doing both of those things is very difficult, because this is a full-time job, essentially. Even if it's just volunteer, it's a full-time job.
it's multiple full-time jobs.
Yes, it is.
Who was second to last and who was last?
Third to last? All right. 2 years ago was one of the hardest years of my life, because I tried to plan my wedding, help design an amusement park, and run the Power Rangers RPG on the Twitch channel, Hyper RPG. And I would wake up in the morning, look at the mirror, and I was like, why hasn't all my hair fallen out of stress? And I realized deep inside, I am too dedicated of a person to be 50% anything. And I realized to be CEO of Hyper, or to even help Hyper, I had to become CEO and I had to put in 200%. So you have to dig deep inside and ask yourself, are you okay doing a B+ job at all these things? Or do you have to do like 200%?
Yeah.
So for me, I do have the privilege that my spouse is taking care of our basic needs in terms of rent and food, so I don't have to worry about that per se. But like everyone has said, this is my full-time job right now. This is the life I'm living, and I'm currently not making any, if all, money. In fact, I'm putting whatever money I have into this channel, and uh it would be great to get a dream job as a game designer or something at a company that designs games, but until the systemic injustices and sort of biases that happens at these workplaces, I do not feel comfortable giving up whatever I'm trying to cultivate for stable income. But I acknowledge my privilege in being able to say that.
I'll try to be respectful within my statements, but WotC has demanded a lot of free labor from a lot of folks. And then folks who are even working there for labor, they have been disrespected and not lived up to the expectations that Wizards of the Coast should have. So like straight up, if Wizards offered me a full-time job, no thank you. But if another another designer, another production company, I would probably try to, because I'm in this split position where, as a member of the Broadswords doing everything that I do, I have a partner. Victoria and I, we split a lot of the work that we do. So everything that y'all do, I can share with somebody else. And like her, for example, she is working for a game design company. She does work with Roll20. And like, for example, I'm doing work with Roll22, and they're willing to let me as my own person, like as my own content creator, utilize their platform to push a lot of my stuff too. So I think I would only be able to do both if whoever was hiring me as a full-time producer and whatnot would allow me to still push my own stuff within their platform. And that's asking a lot. It really is.
Great. Yeah. Sorry. I'm as producers, you all recognize that you're probably working on a few different things at once, and I have a thing right after this that I'm talking to Gen Con right now. Anyway, okay. Next question, very fast, and then we're going to do our wrap up. I'm sorry we weren't able to get to everyone's questions. There are lots of good questions on there. Most of us have Discords. Most of us have Twitters and stuff like that. If you have questions, feel free to reach out. Like I said, reach out to me if you want. Go on our Discord and pose the question, and I'll be happy to try and answer it as best as I can. This question, since you don't control the distribution platform, how do you measure when it's time to start multicasting on multiple platforms so all eggs aren't in one basket? I saw chat kind of respond to this question. The deal we have with Twitch is we cannot multicast. We have to stream on Twitch. That's most channels have that. Some early channels have been grandfathered in and are able to multicast. It depends on the contract that they were able to work out. So if you want to multicast, don't become a Twitch partner. Or at least work out your contract so that you are able to multicast. But that's kind of the big thing. We used to multicast when we started, before we were a partner. We used to multicast to YouTube and Twitch. And YouTube's awesome for our VODs, and we host all of our VODs on YouTube. It's all free. But the YouTube community is a difficult one to get behind streaming, and other services are just kind of growing right now. Twitch is really where the community is, so we put most of our effort in community engagement into our Twitch streams. I don't know if that's similar to other people or if anyone else is multicasting. The one thing I would do is podcast your shows as well. If you can convert them into a podcast, again, a lot of work, but if you can do that, that's been great for us. I don't know if
Yeah,
anyone else
podcasting
wants
is
to
huge.
drop in
Yeah.
anything there with that question.
I have a similar relationship with Twitch, but our relationship with Twitch is really good. So whatever, if you decide to be a partner on any of these live streaming platforms, make sure that you're handing over a really great relationship directly with them, with your partner rep, in exchange for that exclusivity, because it is worth something.
Yes. Um,
And if
Yeah.
you're just an affiliate, don't multi-stream so you don't get in trouble.
yeah, there you go.
Because Dragons and Things is still just an affiliate. Please come watch us and help us get partner.
Yes.
Yes. If please, you know, we talk about financial support tips and stuff like that. Sometimes those unlock story rewards and tiers and things, and it's really fun. But honestly, like, the biggest thing that helps us is having a large and engaged audience. People tuning in and watching and sharing, that really helps our channels and will help your channel as well. So definitely focus and pay attention to who's watching your shows, and help them, give them the tools they need to share that.
And talk about it.
And talk about it. In the interest
Social.
of sharing things, let's share where everyone can find you. Let's start with Miriam.
Yeah, so you can find me on Twitter at media_junkie. You can also see me on Utopia. And you can also see me on the Musafirs. We're coming back from a hiatus with a huge casting call. We're dealing with all those applications. And also Prism Bells, another podcast.
Adam.
Yeah, my personal handle is Hatless Wizard. You can also find the Dragons and Things Network at the DAT Network. That's the DAT Network. Obviously here on Twitch. I do hope you come over and give us a follow. Check out our shows. We are streaming tomorrow, Saturday night, for our Things in Space, which is our Starfinder campaign. And then we also are streaming that show again for Gen Con with a special broadcast on Gen Con main stage on Sunday at 1 p.m. Pacific, 4 p.m. Eastern. And then we have streams throughout the week. So I do hope you check us out. And if you do have any questions that we didn't get to answer, I'm happy to answer them on Twitter, Discord, wherever.
Great. B.
What's up? I am B, your non-binary goblin. You can find me on Twitter as B_Zelda. Plugging things. I mean, what do? I'm a podcaster. I'm on the Broadswords. I stream on Twitch all the time. I am a professional GM with Magpie Games. But more specifically, if you want to check out some of the panels that I'm going to be doing for Gen Con, Miriam and I are going to be on the main stage tomorrow, I believe.
10 a.m.
ET?
ET.
Yes. 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, playing Magic and Mischiefs with an all BIMPOC crew, which I'm so hyped for. And then around 2:30 Eastern Standard Time, I'm going to be on a panel with Roll20. I think I'm talking about virtual GMing. Honestly, show up and we'll find out.
Malika? Did I get you?
I'm
yet?
hello_Malika on Twitter and Instagram. My pinned tweet is all the things I'm doing on Gen Con. And you can also follow Hyper RPG on all the socials. But on Twitter, there's an underscore between Hyper and RPG. We just didn't get that original one.
Oh, man.
We were second.
Yeah. Megan.
You can find me at Megan Caves. My name is spelled right below with that sneaky little H in there. You can find me on Twitter. I am also, I do a lot of things here on Saving Throw. Wild Cards, as I said, is the main one. And tonight, our last episode of what we're calling Wild Cards Interludes is happening at 8 p.m. It is with Gen Con Online. Don't worry if you want to drop in. There's going to be a recap of the previous episodes, so you won't miss a single thing. It is me GMing, and I'm doing my two-part Mysterium show, which is inspired from the board game Mysterium. So it's psychics, it's horror, we're in New Orleans, it's crazy, it's dark. Come and join us, 8 p.m. right here. And then also on Sunday, I'm on, I believe, a 10 a.m. GM panel here with Saving Throw. So you can come and chat with us on that. Beyond that, I am also on Dark Lanterns, which is our one pre-taped show that is on Wizards of the Coast YouTube. That is Eberron, so you can check that out. It's a lot of fun. I am also over at Dragons and Things, currently on Crits and Giggles, which is our Monday night Pathfinder show. It's Reign of Winter Adventure Path. It's a lot of fun. Come do that. Among other things that are in the future, there's a ton of backlog over at Saving Throw. We also have a whole lot more shows that are going to be happening this weekend with Saving Throw on Gen Con, including New Pantheon, including Pirates of Salt Bay, which is D&D. New Pantheon is, what is that one? It's
Demigods, powered by the apocalypse.
Thank you. Yeah, so there's a lot of fun stuff. Please check that out. And I'm also happy to chat. I know people want to know about making gifts. I get that question a lot. Happy to chat about it. Please come and talk to me. I will share all of my knowledge.
Great. My name's Dom Zook. You can find me on Twitter at GadZook. Gen Con thinks that my panel is starting right now. It's not. According to Gen Con, it should start in an hour. So the next thing that I'm doing is Advanced Lord of the Potter Wars Trivia, where I have 6 contestants, and potentially you, the viewer, will be a contestant as well, helping out the teams and answering various questions, including some questions from 2nd edition Dungeons and Dragons. Yeah, it's a thing. It's a real thing that exists. I won't pull it out because it's going to take too long. But do please come and watch that. That should start at noon if Gen Con remembers when they scheduled that for me. And then
noon Pacific. Noon Pacific.
Oh, there's noon Pacific, 3 p.m. Eastern. They're getting some. They just told me that their schedules aren't matching. That's a problem on their end, not mine. But that's going to be on twitch.tv/GenCon Mainstage, and we'll be starting. And then wildcards tonight. And that wildcards will be back here at Saving Throw Show. So give us a follow. And follow all of these awesome people if you're not already, because I want to thank them very much. This was super cool, very insightful. I love talking with you all. I hope that we can do it all again very soon. So thank you very much. And we will be watching everybody soon. I don't know how to close these things up. I don't normally do that.
There's
I
a
love
button
you all.
called
Yeah,
Stop
I love you all
Streaming.
very much. Black Lives Matter. Please, ! BLM. You'll get all the information there. And have a great weekend. Enjoy the rest of your Gen Con. Bye, everybody.